Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We have a lot to get into in today's videos because Satalogic just announced a strategic 5-year partnership with Palantir Technologies. This was one of the most amazing press releases I have ever read for my Palantir press release in my life. Primarily because I've covered all 15 of them over the past 2 months. And this one was one where I was like, wow, they are really working with a company that's doing some amazing things. So let's quickly talk about Satalogic real quick. And I might be saying them wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm saying them right. They are a public company as of January 26, ticker symbol SATL. And they essentially do what Black Sky does. Now, Black Sky was another SPAC that Palantir invested in. I covered them a while back. I'll put them in the description. And you would think of Black Sky as basically a Google Earth on steroids. They have these satellites in the sky. They're taking a lot of geospatial imagery of the entire Earth, and they're providing the data from that imagery back to decision makers that have to do things with that data. That's a very, very big market for people that are attacking different parts of the planet. One very quick example is like climate change, right? So if there's a forest fire, or if there's a crop that's not growing as quickly, and you need decision makers to understand what to do about these things, and it literally is the difference between people having food or not having food, or people dying or not dying when it comes to wildfires, that's where this data is incredibly, incredibly important. And in a world in which we're going to more big data applications to be able to make decisions, these are the types of companies that are going to be rewarded for providing data. So Satalogic does planetary scale insights. They find answers, monitor change, and modernize operations with high resolution satellite imagery. They improve life on Earth. They create a live catalog of Earth, delivering daily updates on a global scale to help decision makers tackle the biggest challenges of our time. They create geospatial analytics. So their low Earth orbit satellite constellation platforms and diversified product portfolio work together to deliver an accurate, agile global service that supports customer initiatives, and they lead the pace of change. They have an agile, cost-effective approach. They deliver high-quality geospatial data at the best price point, enabling better decisions at scale across a lot of industries. So a lot of different industries are using Satalogic, and seems to make sense. They just went public, so a public company obviously has a lot of different clients and a lot of different use cases, and as a result of that, they have partnered with Palantir. Now, Palantir Technologies has a meta constellation product. I actually just did a video. It's called Palantir is literally trying to go to the moon. And the whole concept around that idea is that they're sending these satellites into space, and they're providing all of this high imagery and data around those satellites and providing that to key decision makers. So let's read off the press release, because that meta constellation product goes hand in hand with two things: Edge AI and IoT devices. IoT devices are devices that don't need to be connected to the internet in order to still analyze data and then make decisions. So think of like an electric car, right? An electric car is an IoT. It has a ton of IoT sensors, Internet of Things. It's able to still be able to be autonomous. I should say autonomous car, not electric car, but if it's autonomous, it's probably electric, without being connected to the internet, right? Which is really important because a autonomous car can't crash even though it doesn't have internet connectivity. Second of all, outside of electric cars is also the Edge AI. So Edge AI is AI that essentially does a lot of cloud computing within the AI in and of itself, and it also doesn't have to be connected to the internet. I did a lot more in-depth analysis in the Meta Constellation video that I did that explains what Edge AI is, but Edge AI is a very, very complex set of data tools in conjunction with IoT devices, and when you put them together, you are able to actually create new hardware leveraging software built by Palantir Technologies around their Edge AI and IoT products that actually create some really substantial results when it comes to human progress in order to do different things. So Satalogic today announced a partnership with Palantir Technologies. Under the agreement, Satalogic will leverage Palantir's Foundry platform, accelerating business processes, rapid imagery, product delivery, AI model training, and enterprise-wide data integration. Palantir's government and commercial projects will have access to Satellovic's ALF platform APIs to power their use of Palantir's Meta Constellation and Edge AI capabilities. This is the symbiotic relationship that's important to understand from this partnership. Palantir's government and commercial customers will have access to Satologic's platform and their API to power the use of the Meta Constellation platform that Palantir has. This is the exact same partnership that happened with Black Sky. So when Black Sky was getting all this data, it was being fed back to Palantir's customers, essentially creating the network effect for Palantir to be able to take the data from Black Sky, which is one of the SPACs they invested in, and then be able to feed that data to all their clients using some of their products like Foundry or Meta Constellation to better make sense of that data. Today's announcement built on an existing collaboration between Satalogic and Palantir to field unique AI capabilities to the orbital edge. They have worked together in the past. This is now securing that partnership for the long term. Last year, Satalogic engaged with Palantir to deploy and test Palantir's Edge AI platform on the board of Satologic's new SAT satellites. This successful iteration included live upgrades to the satellite's onboard AI, enabling an ultra-low latency maritime use case. Palantir and Satalogic customers will soon have access to the Edge AI platform running on Satalogic satellites. So their satellites have already tested Palantir's Edge AI platform last year, and now after those tests were pretty much successful and they saw that there was a partnership that made sense, they now went in and secured this partnership. The strategic partnership announced today is expected to accelerate the capabilities both companies can provide to customers in the field, combining industry-leading technologies in satellite imaging, edge AI, and data-driven decisions. Foundry, here's the real big part, will further enhance Satologic's image processing pipeline, unlocking advanced image and geospatial products for customers. So they're using Foundry to be able to make more sense of the geospatial products they already have, given Foundry is sort of like this centralized data analytics platform that accelerates the potential for all the data that you have. Beyond superior image products, Foundry will enable Satalogic to offer customers tailored AI insights derived from images, accelerating the training, iteration, and deployment process for new models. So let me break this down. Apple recently released a iPhone update, and some of you may have it, I think I have it, where you can search the phone in your photos, and the software in the search capability will detect if a photo has a word in it. So if you took a photo of like a hat, and the hat said New York Knicks, and you type in New York, that hat will come up, which is a very complex thing to do because the system has to be able to recognize the words you type and match that through imagery and artificial intelligence to make sense of that imagery with the words you typed in order to produce a result. That's the whole nature of why artificial intelligence is such an important thing in the 21st century. That's what Foundry is going to be able to do with the imagery that Satalogic creates in order to be able to train and reiterate the models from that imagery for the clients that are using Palantir and Satalogic at the same time, and ultimately to create better models at the end of the day. It will also allow Satalogic to implement a company operating system for all the data produced by them. This is what we know as Palantir being integrated into the fabric of a company, to act as a single repository for constellation optimization. The repository will integrate analytics across the information chain from component traceability through satellite to telemetry, all the way to image quality, operational costs, and revenue generation. Now we have a quote from Matthew Turman, president of Satalogic North America. The holistic capabilities of Palantir's Foundry will be instrumental in helping Satalogic realize our mission to improve life on Earth through geospatial data. As a vertically integrated company, we already have a significant competitive advantage when it comes to supply chain resilience. Further, as a part of this agreement, Satalogic will provide Palantir's U.S. government customers with ready access to Satologic's high-resolution satellite imagery to drive analytical insights across a range of mission-oriented use cases. Now, this is another reason that's bullish for Palantir and their governmental prospects, because if the government is using a piece of software and that software is constantly innovating, and like, let's say Mr. Government here goes to Mr. Palantir. Mr. Government's like, hey, Palantir, we want to use your software. Palantir's like, hey, Mr. Government, give us some money. We'll let you do it. Boom. They give them the money. The software is implemented. One day, Mr. Palantir comes into Mr. Government's office and say, hey, Mr. Government, do you guys want to know more about what's going on in this little part of Kentucky just to make sure there's nothing going on that's wrong that could potentially cause a natural disaster? Or, hey, Mr. Government, do you want to monitor these parts of San Diego that you think there may be an earthquake that would cause the government of California a lot of money, which would obviously cause the federal government a lot of money because they would have to send some aid to the government of California in order to make sure we can resolve these things? Do you want to prepare before that happens? Well, guess what? We just partnered with a commercial client that is able to give us geospatial imagery data to be able to track all the things that are happening across the entire world and the United States in our very home. And we're going to give that to you at no cost because you already have a relationship with us, and you can use that data to make even better decisions when it comes to something like natural disaster or climate change. Boom. That accelerates a relationship, that accentuates a relationship, that legitimizes a relationship, that makes a relationship better because Palantir has more leverage since they're providing more than they're getting. They're giving more value, which means when you're getting more than you give, you likely get more in the future. You're giving more than you get, you end up getting more in the future because that client, whatever they are, government or customer, seems to like you a little bit more because you're providing a lot more data to them. So that's another really, really unique thing that this partnership is going to be able to create. Shyam Sankar, COO of Palantir Technologies. Our partnership with Satalogic underscores our joint commitment to empowering outcomes to the edge. Combining the forces of Palantir's Edge AI technology with Satologic's frequent high-resolution imagery will give users actionable insight faster than ever, accelerating their operations from space to mud. really, really interesting stuff. Last thing I'll read from here. Satalogic will be able to grant API access to its partners and suppliers so they can upload data directly to the Foundry platform for algorithm training plus data layer development and analytics. This is expected to accelerate Satalogic's go-to-market for data products, streamline pipeline management, and further scale customer delivery required for weekly and daily world remaps. So what this is saying is that Satalogic's going to be able to grant their API access, which is basically the backbone for how they're able to do all this stuff, to their partners and their suppliers. And those partners and suppliers can then upload data through the API that Satalogic provides it into Foundry. And once Foundry gets that data, it can train its algorithms on how to make sense of that data. Again, this is why Palantir makes the big bucks. This is why we think there's growth potential for the company, because this is a very complicated thing to do. As a result of that algorithmic training based on data that was given through Satalogic's API into the Foundry software, now Palantir can spit out better results for Satalogic's API, which means Satalogic can give better data-driven insights to their partners, their suppliers, etc. That's really interesting. And I think that's revolutionary because Meta Constellation, we don't know what this market's going to look like yet. I mean, when you think of a Meta Constellation product or a space product, most people go to Starlink, which is like these satellites on Earth that Elon launched that is giving internet to the rest of the world. Amazing, phenomenal product, but that's only the beginning of it. I mean, we're at the cusp of what space can be like. What can we do in space? And not just like commercial flying to space for 10 seconds and coming back and paying $250,000 for a seat. Like, what can we actually do in space that can change the world, that can help with climate change, that can stop natural disasters? Like, imagine if we could prevent a hurricane. I'm just saying this off the top of my head. I'm not saying that it's possible, but just like imagine we get technology to the point where we can at least save people because we know a hurricane's coming months in advance before it's coming. We can really prepare. We can maybe build dams. I don't know. We can do something because we have these types of products. I don't know that much about Satalogic and exactly what they do with their customers, but I do know that if they're working with Palantir to provide data-driven insights, that means there is a market opportunity for tailored AI algorithmic training models to be able to provide government insights and commercial customers insights, which ultimately means there's more leverage for Palantir to be able to get more strategic partnerships and to be able to get value from providing those insights to Satalogic, which provides it to their partners. So I'm bullish on this. I mean, this is a really awesome thing. We've known they've been working together for a while, especially when testing their sensors on their satellites. But the fact that there's a now real agreement, and I'll leave this in the description. You should read this for yourself. This is an amazing, amazing just concept that they're working on together at the intersection of edge AI, IoT devices, algorithmic AI training models, and then putting it together and doing all of that in space. Like that I don't know, maybe it's just like I'm a nerd for space and I like used to watch like Neil deGrasse Tyson and his very seductive voice talk about the cosmos, but that stuff blows my mind. Any company doing anything in space blows my mind. And the fact that Palantir is actually able to help customers go into space and it's one of their product offerings out of like 400, that's pretty awesome. Pretty dope stuff. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this news. This came out yesterday. I'm making a video on it a day later. Let me know your comments on this. Let me know your thoughts on how you think a Satalogic and Palantir partnership will operate. And let me know if you even knew Satalogic, ticker symbol SATL, was as a company, and if you're thinking of investing into the company and any insight you've discovered based upon doing your research on Satalogic and Palantir. Please leave a comment. I'll respond to it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.